Today. So what that means now is you might have had a progression that sounded like this. That eventually became more like this. Notice I'm playing not only a major chord, but I'm playing a dominant seventh chord. Okay, and what did I do to make that a dominant seventh chord? Well, I took my C shape, right, and I simply found the seventh of the chord that was available to play that would normally be right here, and I made it a dominant seventh. And that created a great one chord in my blues. It created a C7 sound, okay? So that was beautiful for the basis for our blues progressions, is a dominant sound. And the dominant sound actually worked perfectly on every chord for the melodies that were being incorporated over the diatonic progressions. So it sounded great even on the 4 chord that would normally just be a major triad or a major seventh that were full seventh chords. You started to hear that chord used for the 4 chord as well. And then finally, the 5 chord normally would have been a diatonic seventh chord anyway, so it was basically the same chord, but together, all 3 of them really created the feel of a progression that was a hybrid, really, of European classical harmony and European harmony mixed with African melodies, and that really became the style, the great style that we now know as blues. Okay, so now that we've understood that, we can refer to a 1-4-5 and say it's a blues, or we can call something, let's play a blues that everybody's going to basically understand as a 1-4-5 progression. Okay, so how does that fit together in a form? What do we actually play when we play a blues? Well, I've taken the time to write that down, and I'm going to show you right here. In fact, I'll put it right here. Okay. So I've taken the 1-4-5 of the diatonic harmony, and I've made it into a blues harmony by making the chords seventh chords. Okay? So let's go over the chords now so we can really have a few voicings to play. So we already know that could be a C7 voicing we could play. Okay? And you can take all 5 shapes if you'd like and extrapolate or develop dominant chords from them, but I'm going to help you out here by showing you a few. Here's the major triad that we've had in pattern 2. If you want to make it a dominant chord, you simply open up the fingering here and let your bar create the flat 7 behind where you used to bar here. So now you've got a C7 this way. Okay? So that's another way you can play a C7. You can also take the major bar chord that we add here, and all you have to do to make this a dominant 7th chord is pick up your 4th finger that was holding one of the 3 roots and open it up, and now you've got that flat 7 again in the chord. Okay? So we've got C7 here, we've got C7 here, we've got C7 here, right? Let's find one other C7 chord to play that might be useful. Well, basically, if you take this C7 and you use it up here for G7, you can connect those 2 together to play the G chord to the F chord here. So you can play, right? So we can use pattern 4 shape for C7, pattern 2 shape for F7, and pattern 2 for G7. Okay? And you can also use the pattern that I showed you for C7 here. You can actually use that for F7 and G7. Okay? Now, what is the progression based off? It's based off of, let's see, I told you already, the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords of a diatonic C major scale harmony, but it's a hybrid of C major, right? From the influence of various cultures mixing together in America in the late 1800s. But let's talk about the form and how it works with the bars, okay? So if you notice how many bars we have in this progression, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 times 1, 2, 3. 3 times 4 is 12. So what a blues progression, a traditional blues progression, is a 12-bar form. There's variations of blues progressions, but the most common is definitely a 12-bar form, okay? And the order of the chords has also some variation. But let's start off with one of the most common ones that we can start off playing is the 12-bar slow change blues. And that simply means that the one chord, right here, C7, stays for the first 4 bars until we bring in the next chord, the 4 chord. Okay? So there's 4 bars of C, right? And then eventually on bar 5, it goes to the 4 chord. Okay? And then on bar 6, it stays there, right? But it makes sense now to come back to bar 1, or to the 1 chord, back to C7. Okay? And this progression more than likely had a lot to do with the melodies and the phrasing of blues phrases that the slaves were singing against these chord progressions they were singing them against. Okay, it was a kind of a call and response type of music, so you'll hear a lot of that when we start talking about scales. Okay, and then finally, bar 5, 6, 7, 8, and then on bars 9 and 10 is the 5 chord moving down to the 4 chord, and then finally back to the 1 chord, and then finishing off with the 5 chord. The reason we put that there is because it really moves it back to the 1 chord again. Okay? So real quick, simple lesson on the blues and the chord progression, but I wanted to explain that to show you how it came about. Okay? So blues is a hybrid of a diatonic major scale system, but integrated with dominant chords to have a certain stylistic character that really is unique to the blues. Okay? Okay, so now that I've explained how the blues came about and what chords the blues is based off of and how it relates to the major scale harmony, we're going to practice it now with a couple of voicings that I've shown you over a rhythm section that's basically programmed to play the blues with me. So let's get your guitars out here and let's take a listen here and check out what we're going to do. We're going to use this chord for C, this chord for the F chord, with an option of also using this chord, and this chord for G. Okay? So we're going to play over a very traditional feel in the blues, and that's called a shuffle, and that's basically where the 8th note is swung. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to play the rhythm like this. Okay, so here we go. You want to play along at home? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's do it again. All right, so there's your blues. How about that? It's your first blues progression. Hope you guys had fun with that one, because we're going to revisit that a lot through our lessons, because blues is really the basis for so much music that we play today. I can't think of any other music that's been more important to popular music than the blues, and we can trace it back to the beginnings that I was talking about. So it's really important for every guitar player to have a grasp on blues. Okay, so For homework for you guys, I want you to do something. I want you to go back to the pentatonic scales that we talked about here in the beginning of the lesson. And I want you to practice just one, maybe two of those patterns over the blues progression and convert them. Just pretend, since we're playing over C blues, I want you to make these, think of these as C pentatonic, C minor pentatonic, okay? So let's say we were going to use this pattern right here, okay? Let's call C minor pentatonic the orientation of the whole progression, and basically use all these square notes and put them on C, and you're going to be basically dialed into the key that you're going to want to play for this whole progression. So I'm going to finish off by jamming a little bit in C pentatonic, minor pentatonic, using this progression, this scale pattern right here, and also this scale pattern right here. I'm going to play this pattern and this pattern together to play over the progression, okay? And that's your homework for next lesson, okay? We practice those pentatonic patterns and practice the chord progression for blues. All right, here we go. Take me home. 2, 3, 4. Just pentatonic. All right, see you next week.